We have an exclusive report out of Ukraine. CNN got access to a weapon that Ukrainian forces are using in the Black Sea. They're sea drones, remote-controlled, extremely effective. That's video of one of them ramming a Russian ship.
At 3 a.m. on November 12, 2025, a Russian oil tanker went out into the Black Sea, fully loaded with nearly 500,000 barrels of crude oil. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This is just another oil shipment. It was part of Russia's shadow fleet. These are unregistered shipments that Russia has been using to fund its war. This specific one was moving quietly towards China. To the untrained eye, it was just another ship in the dark. But to Ukrainian intelligence, it was a target worth hundreds of millions, a lifeline for Moscow's war machine, and tonight, a ticking time bomb. And so hundreds of miles away, operators in Odesa monitored the vessel through a combination of satellite feeds, reconnaissance drones, and the Magura V5, an 18-foot unmanned sea drone with a draft of just 1.3 feet. The Magura V5's approach was the reason this entire mission worked. Unlike traditional naval drones, it didn't just skim the surface, it literally melted into it. With a draft of just 1.3 feet, the drone sat so low in the water that even at full speed, the only thing visible was a faint ripple trailing behind it. And in the Black Sea at night, even that ripple blended into the natural wave pattern. To add to that, its hull reflected so little electromagnetic energy that even active scanning failed to identify it. And its noise signature was lower than the ambient hum created by waves colliding with each other. Russian early warning systems didn't stand a chance. Even Russia's Seash rig, with its NEVA radar designed to track small moving objects, couldn't pick it up. But stealth was only part of the plan. Inside the Magura lay 4 FPV drones, each armed with high-precision shaped charges designed to punch holes in steel, disrupt electronics, and create chaos across the Russian defenses. The first challenge wasn't the tanker itself, it was the Seash oil rig. Standing 260 feet tall, bristling with 60 elite troops, IGLAS shoulder-fired missiles, Cornet anti-tank systems, and topped with the all-seeing NEVA radar, it was a fortress at sea. Under normal circumstances, this oil rig could have spotted the Magura as soon as it was launched on the sea. Here's why. This rig could detect and engage multiple targets over a 28-mile radius, and it could do so with near-perfect accuracy. And so any misstep could have ended the mission before it began. The operators had one strict order: avoid the Seash rig at all costs. This wasn't just another offshore platform, it was a fortified, militarized outpost stacked with sensors, infantry, and layered weapon systems. 60 Russian troops were stationed there, backed by IGLAS launchers, Cornet anti-tank missiles, heavy machine guns, and the NEVA radar network capable of tracking hundreds of aerial and surface contacts at once. One wrong move, one accidental approach into its detection cone, and Russia would unleash a massive retaliatory strike that would not only destroy the drones, but also expose the entire Ukrainian launch positions. This is why planners emphasized precision over brute force. Hitting the rig was pointless and dangerous. The real objective was the tanker, and success meant slipping through the gaps in the rig's defenses without triggering a single alarm. And so the first FPV lifted off, climbing to 200 feet to act as a relay. Its job was simple but critical: maintain constant communication with the remaining drones even when Russian jammers kicked in. Next, FPVs 3 and 4 deployed in low, circling patterns near the water, maneuvering like predators waiting for the signal. They were not rushing. Patience was the weapon. And then FPV number 2 activated. Its motors screamed to life, high-pitched and mechanical, and it charged toward the Seash rig. Inside was the Mirage electronic warfare package, which engaged with the NEVA radar. It had one job: jam the NEVA radar. But this wasn't simple jamming. One thing with Ukraine, their intelligence systems are top-notch. The second FPV was engineered to pasture and rebroadcast the NEVA radar signals with delays and azimuth shifts, creating dozens of ghost targets across the radar screen. And most important of all, it was a decoy. Russian operators watched in confusion as phantom signals multiplied. NEVA's processor, designed to track 200 targets following predictable paths, now faced chaos. First, there were 40, then 50, then 100 plantum blips moving unpredictably on their screens. They looked at each other like, what the hell is happening? And their intelligence systems seemed to relay the same question back to them. It was pure chaos. And so, alarms blared through the control room. When investigators broke down the FPV footage frame by frame, one detail stood out immediately. The swarm wasn't moving randomly. Every drone in the cluster was reacting to one thing: the brightest, fastest-moving blip on their thermal feed. And so, the next logical step was to fire a single IGLA missile. In military-style tracking, heat signatures matter more than shapes, and the decoy FPV was burning hotter and moving more aggressively than anything else in the area. So, when the IGLA missile locked on, it didn't choose a target in the human sense, it simply obeyed physics. It followed the brightest spike of infrared energy in its field of view, and in that moment, the decoy sealed its fate. The missile curved, corrected, and chased that blinding hot streak across the sky until it slammed into it and neutralized the swarm temporarily. Russian operators exhaled, thinking the threat neutralized. They had made a fatal error and ultimately sealed their fate for what was coming. FPV number 1 remained in orbit, silently relaying data. FPV number 3 received the signal. It shifted from a circling pattern into a dive. The target? The radar antenna at the top of the Seash rig.
It!
And so, a 6.6-pound shaped charge warhead struck with surgical precision. The antenna's waveguide, the system that carried all radar signals, collapsed. NEVA went dark. The fortress that had dominated the northwestern Black Sea for years was blind. Russian troops on the rig scrambled in panic. Their most advanced sensor, the centerpiece of their layered defense, had been destroyed in a single strike. Meanwhile, FPV number 4 faced a challenge. After being blindsided by FPV number 3 and 2, the next logical step would be to destroy any remaining FPVs, right? And that's precisely what Russian soldiers did. Twin-barreled 23mm cannons opened fire, tracers streaking through the foggy night. Kornet missiles locked onto heat signatures. Every move could be lethal. And yet, the operator maneuvered with split-second calculations, jerking the drone left, dropping it toward the water, then climbing, then diving again. The drone's carbon fiber frame absorbed hits. Rotors shuddered, but it survived. Finally, the Kornet missile fired at FPV number 4. Calculations gave the operator less than 3 seconds to act. He cut power to all 4 motors, turning the drone into a falling 30-pound projectile. The missile, tracking aerodynamic movement, overshot. Instead of hitting the drone, it struck the tanker. That impact ignited fuel lines and electrical systems on deck. Flames exploded, spreading rapidly toward the engine room. Russian sailors scrambled. Fire alarms blared. They had no idea how many more drones were incoming. The psychological effect was immediate chaos, replaced control. The ship had been hit, yes, but Ukraine operators were just starting. And that's where the Magura V5 came in. At a blistering 42 knots, its water-jet propulsion cutting through the waves like a missile.
A massive fire at an oil depot near the Black Sea resort of Sochi has been blamed by Russia on a Ukrainian drone attack. It was one of a series of strikes on Russian military infrastructure this weekend.
Operators guided it straight at the tanker's engine room, now fully exposed and vulnerable. 5 seconds to impact. 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! Kinetic energy and explosives combined in a devastating strike. Structural steel buckled, fuel tanks ruptured, and a fireball erupted into the night. The tanker began to split under the pressure.
Attack to our starboard guard. Urgency.
Can you repeat again your message? What happened and any injuries?
Within minutes, the 800-foot ship was torn in two. Flames shot hundreds of feet into the sky, black smoke stretching across the horizon. 500,000 barrels of crude were lost instantly. The mission had achieved more than destruction. It had struck at the heart of Russian logistics in the Black Sea. In just 13 minutes, Ukrainian forces had neutralized 5 major objectives: the tanker destroyed, fuel lost, Seash rig radar disabled, the rig's defenders blinded, and Moscow's shadow fleet disrupted. The loss wasn't just physical, it was strategic. Russia now had to rethink every shipment from the Black Sea. Routes had to be diverted through the Arctic, weeks longer and millions of dollars more expensive per trip. Insurance premiums skyrocketed. Their supposed secure supply lines were now exposed and vulnerable. This operation was a textbook example of asymmetric warfare. One repurposed unmanned boat costing $250,000, plus 4 FPV drones, cheaper than a single soldier's annual salary, had eliminated a $100 million tanker, crippled key radar infrastructure, and sent a message about the reach and precision of modern drone warfare. The Russians, meanwhile, were left stunned. The Seash rig, once untouchable, now sat blind and isolated. Any air defense systems moved to protect static targets like rigs were now unavailable on frontline positions, weakening other parts of the Russian operational grid. Every calculation, every deployment had to be reconsidered. Ukraine had forced Moscow to use its own strength to weaken itself. The strategic ripple effects were immediate. The loss of a single tanker cut Russia's Black Sea oil exports by an estimated 5%. Every remaining shipment now faced a higher risk, tighter monitoring, and more expensive security. Moscow could no longer rely on old, uninsured tankers protected by static military outposts, and any attempt to retaliate would be complicated by the very same risks and uncertainties that the Ukrainian operators had exploited. The attack wasn't flashy. It wasn't meant to be. It was precise, ruthless, and effective. Operators avoided the Seash rig, neutralized radar systems, and exploited every vulnerability of the tanker, all while staying out of range and control of Russian defenses. It was a tactical masterclass that exposed systemic weaknesses in Russian naval strategy and highlighted the disruptive power of unmanned systems. For the first time, the myth of an impenetrable Russian Black Sea defense was shattered. The strategic lesson was clear: no asset is untouchable. Even the most heavily defended shipment, even the most sophisticated radar system, even platforms thought to be invulnerable, could be taken down with speed, precision, and asymmetric tactics. One repurposed sea drone and 4 FPV drones had accomplished what conventional forces could not. The mission illustrated the changing nature of modern naval warfare. Small, agile, and intelligent systems can create results far beyond their size or cost. This operation revealed a truth Russia didn't want to admit. Modern warfare doesn't belong to the biggest ships or the heaviest missiles. It belongs to the smartest, fastest, most adaptable systems. And in 13 minutes, Ukraine proved exactly how dangerous those systems can be. Because if one tanker can be taken out this easily, what comes next? So, after watching this operation unfold, which tactic was most phenomenal? The FPV decoy swarm that blinded the Seash rig, or the Magura strike that tore the tanker in half? Let me know what you think in the comments.